Hello everyone, welcome to the new lesson, and in this particular lesson we are going to see the result of this particular analysis question. Let's see what is the scenario. So the question asked, is there any significant impact of order value and cost on the variable refund amount? So you simply know that when you are asked to measure any significant influence, impact or effect of the variables on other variable, you have to perform the regression analysis. So as we want to measure the impact of order value and cost on refund, we have to conduct the regression analysis. So the null hypothesis will be there is no statistically significant impact of order value and cost on refund, and the alternative hypothesis will be there is a significant impact of order value and cost on refund. And you know the significance level is 0.05, and we have already transformed all the numeric values except the refund because you know what is the reason. However, we will use the yo cost instead of the values of the cost variable, and box cox order value instead of the values of order value. Now we are going to see how ChatGPT provides us the required Python code. So we'll go to ChatGPT and we'll ask. So I write, give me a Python code to measure the impact of order value and cost on refund. Or you can simply write that give me a Python code for regression analysis. However, by specifying the targets will be easy for generating the actual code we need by the ChatGPT. So just run the command. Here you can see the lines of code. At first, ChatGPT imported the most important library, which is statemodels.api as SM. So whenever you can see the SM in your code, you have to refer this particular function used to calculate something in regression analysis comes from this statemodels.api. So this is a particular library that is used to perform any regression analysis or predictive analysis as per the statistics. However, let's at first copy this particular line of code and paste it here. Definitely you have to check whether this particular library is installed within your Jupyter notebook. Otherwise you have to install it using pip install statemodels.api. After that, you can see ChatGPT created three sample data. One is order value, another is cost, and another is refund. And here you can see the main lines of code. At first, you can see that within the variable x, the constant of the variables is calculated. To calculate the constant values, you can see the add underscore constant is used, which is the Python method to calculate the constant for the prediction as per the independent variable. However, you know that the independent variables are the variables that affect another variable, and here the independent variables are order value and cost, because these particular variables may have an effect on the dependent variable refund, and definitely the dependent variable is the variable which may get affected by the independent variables. You can see that the add underscore constant function is comes from the SM or state models API, and within the brackets of this particular function you can see that np.column underscore stack is used to stack the two variables values order value and cost, and the constant are loaded to the variable x. After that, you can see that we have a line of code to fit the linear regression model. You can see from the state models API, .ols function is used, and within the function, at first the dependent variable is written, which is refund. Separating by comma, you can see the x, which is the independent variables along with the constant added. And after that, the dot fit function of Python is added to fit the dependent variable and the independent variable within the regression model, and the entire result of the regression model is loaded in this particular variable model. After that, you can see the regression coefficients or results are put within the variable coefficients, and you can see that we have developed our model and if you use the dot params with your model, you will get all the parameters or statistical results given within the model, and the results are loaded within the variable coefficient. After that, you can see some headings and their respective values. You can see the regression coefficients, which are the first heading, and you can see the second heading, intercept, and separating by a comma you can see the coefficient and with 0. That means we will get the first value of the statistical results which is imported in the variable coefficient, and the first value is the intercept or constant. I will tell you more about it while explaining the results. And then you can see the order value coefficient, and you can see from the coefficient variable within which the result of regression analysis is imported, and the second variable is taken. You can see it is filtered by 1, and the second variable is the order value coefficient, and the third value is the cost coefficient. And then you can see the summary of the regression model. You can see the print regression summary, and before that you can see a slash sign and n. It is actually used to break down a paragraph or write this particular summary in another paragraph. And after that you can see that print, and within the function the model dot summary is used. So model is a particular variable within which we got the result of regression analysis, and the dot summary is a particular Python function which provides the summary of the regression analysis. We will remove this print because it will be more clearer to you after getting the results of model summary if you remove the print in a structured format. We'll just copy the codes from here to here, go to Jupyter Notebook, and then you have to paste it here. So at first you have to define your independent variables. So we will use the box cox underscore order val for order value, and yo underscore cost for the cost variables. Then we have to filter out the variables values refund from the entire data or the final data frame. So this is our dependent variable. Here you can see the x, which includes the added constant for independent variables and the independent variables themselves, and the dot fit model. Everything is okay, just run the code. And here you can see the summary. At first you can see the intercept or constant. That means when there is no sales or no cost, what will be the refund? Definitely there will be no refund. As per the statistical results, the refund will be minus 97,939. So intercept is not a very meaningful thing, so we can ignore it. It just implies that what happens if there is no impact of the independent variables. After that you can see the coefficient of order value, which is 1099. So it actually means that if there is an increase of 1000 order value, then the refund will increase by 1099. So by measuring the coefficient of order value, you can say the impact of order value on refund is highly positive, because when you increase your order value by 1000, your refund is likely to be increased by $1099. After that you can see the coefficient for the variable cost is 106. So similarly, the coefficient value is at first positive. It depicts that if there is an increase of $1000 in cost, the refund will also increase by $106. So you can also conclude that cost positively influence the refund alike the order value. But if you compare the impact of order value and cost by their coefficient values, we can say the sales or order value highly influences the refund compared to the cost. After that you can see the regression summary. at first we will look at our R squared value. So R squared value actually provides you the knowledge that the power of independent variables to explain your dependent variable. In other words, the portion within the dependent variable can be influenced by the independent variable. Here you can see the R squared is 0.921. If we multiply it by 100, we got 92.1%. In our case, we can say 92.1% of dependent variable or refund can be explained by our independent variables. Or we can say 92.1% of change within the refund happens because of the influence of order value and cost. After that, we'll go to the final table. Here you can see the table. So x1 is our first independent variable, which is order value, and x2 is our second independent variable, which is cost. Here you can see the coefficient list. Both coefficients are positive, so we can say that both independent variables positively influence the refund. If one of the coefficient becomes negative, then we can say the particular variable negatively influence the dependent variable. Suppose cost negatively influence the refund, so in our case we would get minus 106, and then we could say if there is an increase of $1,000 in cost, the refund will decrease $106. But as both variables of order value and cost positively influence, so we will proceed to this particular result. However, you can see the t statistics and p value, which is mostly important. You can see the p value for order value is statistically significant, as the p value is 0.000, and you can see that the p value is less than 0.05 for the order value or the first independent variable. That is why you can say that order value statistically and significantly influence refund. We cannot conclude the similar thing for the second independent variable, cost, because the p-value is higher than the significance level 0.05. So we cannot conclude that cost significantly and positively influence refund. So the null hypothesis can be rejected for the order value but cannot be rejected for the cost. That's all for regression analysis. After doing the regression analysis, you comes to know what does mean by coefficient of regression analysis. So for a recap, I am telling you again that the coefficient for each independent variable actually defines how the independent variable influence the dependent variable and how much change we can expect in a dependent variable for a standard change of that independent variable. And in our case, if the order value increases by $1,000, the refund increases by $1,099. And as the coefficient is positive, we can see the order value significantly and positively influence the refund. You know the R squared, you can see that 92.1% of change within the refund can be defined by the change or effect or impact of order value and cost. But unfortunately, we can see that for the population, we found that order value has significant impact on refund, but cost does not have the significant impact on refund. So that's all for regression analysis and hypothesis testing. Regression analysis is important to define the significant variables which have significant impact on our target data. I think everything is clear to you. That's all for regression analysis. Thank you.